Okay, so exercise 8 is a lot like exercise 7 where we're actually using the GIS to solve problems and answer criteria, except in exercise 8 we're using raster data, which is significantly different than vector data, which is all we've used up to this point. Raster analysis is really cool, and if you can wrap your mind around it, it's quite simple and effective. So hopefully I can help you with this video better understand that. So I'm going to start with a new map, and I'm just going to go with my letter ANSI map in portrait, and not wanting to save what I did before. So I'm looking at the instructions, and it tells me to use the Spatial Analyst extension along with the Sturgis Geodatabase. So I need to make sure on my customize here on extensions that I have Spatial Analyst turned on. So Spatial Analyst needs to be turned on there. That's good. And I'm going to look in my art catalog. I'm going to pin it open, browse to my MGIS data, Black Hills, Sturgis. And so I'm just going to kind of look at the list here and see what I need to drop in. So again, we're imagining that we're building a map. So we're looking at the vegetation. So just this one that says vegetation, I'm going to drag and drop it. That's a vector data file. I'm going to have to create a slope. I'm going to have to create aspect. I do need the roads, so I'm going to bring in my USFS roads. And I'm also going to bring in streams. And there's land cover, raster data here. And this topo 30 is the most important one for this project that we'll have to use. So I'm going to bring that topo 30 in, and then I'll hide my art catalog. I'm going to rearrange these layers just a little bit so they show up a little better on the map. I'm going to put the lines above the polygons, and then we have these raster images. These last two are rasters, everything else is vector. So the first thing that we might want to do is convert this vegetation vector data into raster data. Now this topo 30 is our primary data source that we're going to use to generate a lot of the data for this project. So I want to match my new data with my topo 30. So I'm going to go into my geoprocessing and environments and set up some things that hopefully will help me along the way. Under raster analysis here, the maximum cell size, I'm going to put same as topo 30. Okay, and I'm also going to set the processing extent the same as topo 30. So I just want to keep an eye as I go through and make sure my cell sizes are always 30 meters. What that means is each pixel represents 30 meters on the surface of the planet. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select all the polygons in the vegetation layer that is privately owned. So it's going to be a select by attributes. So I'm looking at my vegetation layer, and owner equals PVT. So pick OK. You can see there's a number of polygons selected. Those are the ones that I'm going to be looking at. Everything else is going to be discarded. So I'm going to use my Art toolbox, my Spatial Analyst tools. See if I can get those to play. I'm going to pin that open so we can see. I'll pan this over a little bit just so you can see what's going on. Alright, so I'm going to go to my Spatial Analyst tools. Actually, I'm not going to Spatial Analyst tools. I'm going to my conversion tools this time. I'm going to convert to raster here, right? And what I have is features. So I'm going to go feature to raster. The input is my vegetation. The field is owner. And my cell size here, I want to make sure that stays at 30. So really watch that throughout the way. And make sure you know where you're putting this. I'm going to make a new folder for this. I'm going to put a new folder in my drive where I'm working. And I'm going to call it EXC8. What the problem is. Alright, and we'll call this one private. So pick OK. And that's going to generate a new raster image. So I'm going to turn off the original vegetation. And I'm going to turn off some of this other stuff so we can see what we just created. So we just created this raster image, and all this green area, each pixel has a value of 1. Each pixel is 30 meters by 30 meters, and each one has a value of 1. So that's good. So the next criteria is that we have to have a slope of 20 degrees. Right now we don't have any slope data, but we do have this digital elevation model, Topo 30M. A digital elevation model is a raster image where each pixel represents a value above or below sea level. So that can be used to create a slope layer. So I'm going to go to my Spatial Analyst tools, and this is going to be a surface tool, and it's called slope. So the input is going to be my Topo 30. The output, I'm going to make sure it goes into my folder here, and I'm going to call slope. Call it slope degree. Because we want to make sure we're in output of degrees. And just to double check these environments, I'm going to make sure that the cell size is 30. Looks like it's good. So I'm going to pick OK. And so now I've generated this area of slope. So if we zoom in, we can see the greens all the way up to the bright reds as the slope increases. Now, that's really nice if you want to know all the slopes of the terrain. What I'm particularly interested in is I want my values to have a slope of 0 to 20. So instead of having all these different ranges, I would like to have one range that just says, yes, that's true, or no, that's false. So I'm going to reclassify this slope into either true or false based on my criteria. So again, that's a Spatial Analyst tool. It's called Reclass. So I'm going to pick Reclassify. My input is going to be my slope degree. I'm looking at the value field, and I'm going to change my classes. Now there's usually, you're either going to set your number of classes to either 2 or 3 depending on the range of numbers you need. If you're looking at a range of 0 up to some number or some number up to infinity, then you can get by with 2. If you need a slice out of the middle between 0 and infinity, you need 3. So in this case, we can get away with 2 classes. So my first class is going to stop at 20. And my next class, I always just want to make this larger than the last one. So the maximum is 50. So if I make this 100, everything's fine. So when I pick OK, I've got 2 groups over here. 0 to 20, which is the area that I want. So I'm going to make that new value be 1. And everything over 20 degrees is going to be 0. So I'm going to make sure that this is going into my folder, and I'm going to call it Reclass Slope. Be sure don't put any spaces or funny characters. I use the underscore. So it's very important that you have either a 0 and 1, and on this no data, I'm going to go ahead and put zeros there as well. So I want to pick OK. And the software will regenerate, and to the reclass values has zeros and ones. If you get something other than 0 or 1, then you made a mistake. I'm going to turn off my original slope, minimize it, kind of get it out of my hair, because we're done with that. The next line on the instructions talks about aspect. So I'm going to go in and generate an aspect. Aspect simply means which area of the land, which direction that particular pixel is facing, north, south, east, or west. So again, that's a surface tool. Our input is going to be our Topo 30. We're going to make sure we'll call it aspect in my folder. Pick OK. And so now we get this nice colored raster where the aspect is facing either flat, north, northeast, east, so on and so forth. So again, we're going to reclassify this into either 0 being false or 1 being true. I'm looking for that range between 90 and 270 degrees. So again, I'm going to use the reclass tool, reclassify, aspect, value. I'm going to use the classify button here. And remember I told you use either 2 or 3. In this case, I'm going to use 3. So the first one is going to break at 90. The second one is going to break at 270, and I'm just going to make sure the third one is larger than my maximum. So I've got 3 groups here. The first one is 0. 90 to 270 is my one that I'm looking for, so that's going to be 1. The second group, 270, 360, is 0, and I'm going to go ahead and make no data 0. I'll put this in my appropriate folder. I'm going to call it reclass aspect. Didn't like that, probably got too many letters, so I'm going to back that up. There we go. Just had too many characters. I think you're only allowed 13. So I'm going to double check again. 0, 1, 0, 0. Pick OK. So now I've got my reclass raster, 0s and 1s only. I'm going to turn off my original aspect. Get that out of my way. Looking back at my roads, the next thing I'm going to do is generate some surfaces with the roads. I'm going to stop this video here and continue that on with the next video. If you have any questions to this point, give me an email. Thank you.